Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Fintech News. I'm your host, Nicholas Belville, and as always, I'm joined by Cigar, our head of research here at Fintech Cadence. How are you doing, Cigar?
I'm really good. How are you, Nick?
Very good. I hope you all are doing well and that you're listening to today's episode of Fintech News because, as you can see, we got a new setup, so we hope the audio is coming in nice and clear. And today, what we wanted to speak about was actually 4 startups that came up in the news, mostly for funding rounds, as usual, and that we wanted to shed a light on. So today, it's going to be 4 startups starting out in Kazakhstan with a fintech valued at over $5 billion called Casspi. Then we moved to Spain to speak about a startup called Mito. Next, Buddha, a fintech startup of New York. And lastly, Trulioo.
Trulioo, all the way back into Canada.
Trulioo out of Vancouver, Canada. So let's kick things off. Cigar, could you tell us a bit about Casspi?
So Casspi is, imagine Amazon with all the financial services that you can think of. So they process payments, they provide credit cards, and they also provide lending facilities for you to make the purchases on the website itself. So they're combining 2 different industries into one, and which is why even though Kazakhstan has an 18 million population, which is less than Canada, it has a fintech startup that is going to be valued at $5 billion.
And do they just operate in Kazakhstan? Like, is it Kazakh only?
So they're planning, as of now, yes, only in Kazakhstan, but they are planning to expand in Europe, which is why they're going to list themselves on the London Stock Exchange instead of going for the US, despite of the Brexit, because I believe that they really want to expand and get a stronger foothold in European countries.
Interesting.
Maybe it'll be Eastern Europe first, because Kazakhstan has more commonalities there than Central Europe, but I think it'll move in that direction over the years, yeah.
Okay. And so just to be clear, because what does the Amazon of, so it's just all financial services? Pretty much?
Right. So imagine that you want to purchase something really expensive. You know that you can pay it over the years in small installments,
right?
But you don't have the money as of now. So you go to Casspi.
Buy now, pay later.
Exactly. Buy now, pay later. From what I understand, they also provide wallet services. So you can connect your credit cards with the Casspi payments terminal, and basically you can pay with anything that you have. So you don't really have to worry about which credit card you use.
What do you mean by anything that you have? Like if I have a nice pair of shoes worth $1,000?
No, it's not anything that you have. It's anything as in any credit, any payment instrument that you have.
Gotcha.
So
check, cash, credit, debit.
So
Bitcoin?
I don't think so. I don't think it's Bitcoin. But speaking of more of a simpler example, not many websites or e-commerce retailers accept American Express, for instance.
Right.
And I'm guessing that won't be a problem on Casspi. Everything is in a different language on the website, so it's really hard to really understand. But that's what I could make out from what I read. It's an amalgamation of e-commerce with financial services.
Okay.
They have this Casspi map, which gives you an indication of where the ATMs and are shop in installments, between accounts transfer. So I think if you want to transfer money from one card to the other, you can do that. It's really a bank and e-commerce.
Alibaba style Amazon. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really interesting.
And $5 billion. Do you know when they launched?
I think they launched in, no, I don't see the details, but it does say that they grew by 54% their revenues in 2019 as compared to the same period in 2018, which is really interesting and really, really high growth.
Yeah.
I wish I knew about them before.
Okay. Anything else about Casspi, or do you want to move on to Mito?
Well, we can move on to the next startup. Yeah.
Off to Spain.
Mito. So interesting thing is one of the Mito is about educating your kids on how to spend better. So it's basically a credit card or an app on their phone, which is monitored by their parents, and they can transfer money to that app and track how their children are spending money. So the interesting part is one of our startups, it's called Crisis.
Yeah.
That was in the second Ascension program, the second version of the Ascension program.
And based out of Quebec City.
Based out of Quebec City right now, is doing something similar. But it's the usual problem that every startup faces. They're looking to collaborate with the bank as of now and get
New York?
Buddha. So again, a startup that I worked with, which was in the similar domain. It's called Wealth Tab. It's run by Mike Blicker, who we run into every
Right.
now and then because he works out of downtown. They're trying to automate they're not trying, they have succeeded in automating the process of making the onboarding process and the renewal process for insurance, especially commercial insurers, fully automated. So
is this KYC?
no, not exactly KYC. So let's assume that you want to renew your insurance and you get all these lengthy forms that you have to fill.
Wait, you want to renew your insurance? Why are you getting a bunch of forms when you have to?
Exactly, you have to. It's the process in insurance.
Okay.
That's how the insurance
It's just
industry works.
the regulation.
Yeah. It's so it depends. If you're trying to switch from one insurance company to the other, you have to
Right.
fill out forms. If you're
That makes
applying for
sense.
new insurance, and in commercial insurance, I think when you do the renewal process, there are some forms that you really need to fill out again,
Okay.
even though the insurance company has the same information. So
They can't just transfer it from insurance company to insurance company. They need the insuree
exactly,
to
right,
redo
right,
the information.
right. So Buddha automates this process. The forms automatically populate with the information that is the most current for the client,
Okay.
and they have an inbuilt signature, e-signature, just like a DocSign. So the process of the entire onboarding process is fully automated and
Gotcha.
on the platform for Buddha.
Okay. I'm hearing we got a comment that the sound is just a bit low. So if we could just increase the sound just a bit of the both of us, that'd be awesome. Thank you, Pascal, for pointing that out. Okay, so that's a really interesting type of startup. But yeah, so let's just get back to. Sorry, I was just distracted by that message. So it's not KYC, but then to transfer. So yeah, let's just.
I don't have the news. So yeah. What do you want to ask? Just asking.
Yeah, well, I just so Buddha they raised how much? 4.5 million.
4.5 million. Yeah.
In a series.
I forgot.
Okay.
I need to take. Yeah.
Well, we can move on to Trulioo then.
Yeah.
So Trulioo out of Vancouver, Canadian startup.
KYC.
They're KYC.
They're KYC. Yeah.
Why are there first of all, why are there so many KYC startups?
Everything is becoming more and more digitized. Everything is moving towards technology platform, all the way from just making a purchase online to making a financial transaction online. So people need to know who they're dealing with.
Right.
And they don't have the luxury of using paper or IDs. So there has to be a way to actually identify the person who you're receiving money from or sending money to.
Yeah.
So that's why there's such an explosion in the KYC space in terms of digital identities.
Sure.
So everyone is looking for that. Everyone is looking for that in a real-time basis. And
when you say everyone, you're meaning financial institutions?
Even financial institutions, they work with multiple industries. If I'm not mistaken, they work with e-commerce websites as well. And yeah, it's multiple industries that they work with.
Why would e-commerce need to have KYC capabilities?
So when you're opening an account, for instance, let's take the example of Casspi that provides so many different facilities,
right.
Amalgamated financial services and e-commerce.
Yeah.
They would need a KYC process. And if it's a payment in a B2B space, usually B2B payments are quite large. So in that case, you need a KYC process to make sure that you're receiving and sending money to the right person. Which is why checks are still in existence because, well, not checks are a bad example, but just in B2B alone, it's always important to understand who you're sending money to and who you're receiving from.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But why? Maybe my question, just why isn't there like one de facto KYC company? Is it just because everybody does it a bit differently, and maybe some banks, FIs, or e-commerce platforms believe, like, do some have more value than others?
That's an interesting question. I don't really have an answer, so we can do a comparison. So you and I both listen to the pitch from Owl.
Yeah, for sure. And that was a super interesting company, right?
So
also a Vancouver-based KYC.
Exactly.
So
right.
So now there's like two. That's why I'm asking, because there's two Vancouver-based KYCs.
Right. So the value proposition that Owl has over other KYC companies at the moment is that they have this zero knowledge proof.
And maybe we'll just clarify for those listening what KYC means. It's know your customer.
Know your customer.
So
yeah.
just to
or
be able
identity management. Yeah.
Right.
So Owl is zero knowledge proof. So what their real value proposition is that once a user, they have all this information on users like people like you and I, but they don't even know where that information is stored, and they know where the information is stored, but they can't read it. So it's encrypted, and even they can't read it. The banks can't read it. No third party can read it. But they have this way of actually proving that you have that this information belongs to Nick, and if he's registering for a bank account, it's Nick, but all the information is encrypted. So it's a really cool technology, and that's why they're doing so well, and that's their biggest value proposition. So and
do you know how? So that's Owl. Do you know how Trulioo is doing it?
Trulioo is just from what I understand, they have access to a ton of databases, and they have this information, the scrape, or they already have this information stored on their servers, and they provide identity verification on a real-time basis. Right. Another value proposition is that they mentioned that they can provide identity verification for 2/3 of the population on this planet. So, and they said that this means that they can that banks can provide services to the unbanked who don't have IDs. Or I don't know. I really need to understand what they mean by that. That they can because they can prove identities for 2/3 of the population.
That's crazy. Because well, first of all, like most accounts are private, and this is what we learned in the conference with Owl, that they're just accessing public information. So for them, they're looking at over 1,000 markers, and they're able to only verify then 30%. Those 30%, 70% are discarded. Yep. So I don't. 2/3 is just massive.
Yeah, that's what it says on the press release that they have, and they have, I think, close to 1,200 databases that they scan and scrape information from.
No, KYC is a really interesting market, and it's interesting to see, especially that we have so many coming out of Canada now, 2 from Vancouver, maybe more, that we just maybe are under the radar right now and haven't heard of. But and it's interesting to see how they'll all interact, like Trulioo working with, Casspi or Buddha to do that KYC process.
Maybe, yeah. It's they're in different geographies, but it's possible. Yeah, it's definitely. Europe has a ton of KYC startups, I believe. So, if Casspi goes into Europe, that's a possibility.
Okay. Well, I think that that sums up everything we wanted to chat for today. So thank you for everybody tuning in to today's episode of FinTech News. We hope you learned something about the 4 startups we featured today. And make sure you tune in next week at 3:30 p.m. on Tuesday for another episode of FinTech News. And don't forget, the Co-op Marathon's coming up. So if you're interested in participating in the world's largest open innovation competition, FinTech Cadence is going to be responsible of leading the finance track once again this year for 3rd year in a row. So make sure you check that out in the link, fintechcadence.com/co-op marathon, to learn everything that's going on. It kicks off October 2nd at the Olympic Stadium of Montreal. It's really going to be a great 25-day competition with over $100,000 in prizes. So if you're interested in fintech, looking to launch your very own fintech startup, or just want to get involved in the space and learn a bit more, it's something definitely you should check out. So thanks again. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you all next Tuesday.